Meet Priyanka. She wants to move abroad to find her dream job, but she's stuck at 6.5 in IELTS writing. Today, we're going to transform her essay step by step and bring her essay from a band 6.5 up to a band 8 and maybe even 9. The best part? This lesson is fully interactive, so at each stage, you will be able to participate in the lesson and learn and improve your own writing at home. So let's get started. First, you guys at home and Priyanka, please read the question and just have a think about it for 10 seconds. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you 3 different sets of ideas. 2 of them don't answer the question correctly. 1 of them does. What I want you to do is just think about the question, think about the ideas, then tell me which one is correct and why the other 2 are wrong. Possibility number 1. These are 4 different ideas. Just have a read of them. Think about, would these actually answer the question or would they not answer the question?
Oh, sorry, I have a question. When it says possibility 1, these are the 4 points that come under possibility 1. Okay, and then there's other possibilities. So am I looking at each of them individually or am I looking at them
As a whole.
as a whole?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you were to use these 4 in your essay, would it be a good essay? If that makes
Interesting.
sense.
Do I have to tell you now or
No,
do I have to tell you
no,
when?
the other 2 will inform you of whether these are good or not.
So I have the chance to compare it to the next ones.
Exactly.
Okay.
Possibility 2. Okay.
Wait, I have a question. Is it saying governments shouldn't spend or governments don't? They don't at the moment.
What this is saying is they do spend money. They do spend a lot of money, but it's not too much.
Okay.
It's justified.
Okay.
Possibility 3. Any strike you as wrong?
I agree with this.
Okay.
I agree with this too. I mean, I feel like it's incomplete, but I don't feel like it's wrong.
Okay.
This one I don't agree with.
Okay. So 3 is wrong because what is it talking about? Is it talking about national celebrations?
Weddings
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
And only weddings.
Exactly. So this is a very common problem that a lot of people have is they will immediately start talking about their own personal life that's kind of related to the question rather than actually answer the question that's being asked. Either because this is just a natural human thing to personalize complex issues, or people just think that if they write anything that's even just related kind of to the topic, that it'll be fine. And they're like, oh, I know a lot about my cousin's wedding recently and I'll just write about that. But you have to answer the question. So good. Possibility 3 is wrong. So that leaves us with possibility 2 or possibility 1. Which one do you think is correct and which one's wrong?
This is wrong
Why?
because it only focuses on national celebrations. Doesn't acknowledge anything about religious festivals, was it?
So let's look at the question. In many countries, governments and individuals spend too much money on national celebrations, such as New Year and religious festivals. So the such as is not saying you must talk about New Year's and religious festivals. It is giving you examples to help you understand what national celebrations are. So national celebrations could be New Year's Eve. In my country, St. Patrick's Day is like a religious festival. Or it could be you won the World Cup, and it's you're celebrating for that reason. It doesn't have to be New Year and religious festivals. So if they focus in on religious festivals or New Year's Eve in the question, that's fine because they're both national celebrations. But it's good because you're thinking deeply about the question. If you use these ideas in the question, would that be good or bad or what?
It would be good, but it would be incomplete.
Why?
I would add to this in a way that maybe it could be possible that a country is spending too much money on something that is a national celebration and it needs to be budgeted within the, let's say, economic climate of the country. Because if there's a lot of people living under poverty and they're spending millions of dollars on firecrackers, it might be kind of an imbalance. So I would say that it's quite one-sided in the fact that it just negates the possibility of being an opinion different to this.
Good. This is great because you are making the classic mistake that intelligent people make. Intelligent people generally don't do very well on IELTS writing task 2 because you overcomplicate it.
Interesting.
And you're trying to make it like a multi-dimensional PhD thesis.
Yes.
and think about it from many different angles, and then synthesize all of this and put it. You have 40 minutes, and all you're trying to do is show the examiner that you can write in English. It is not testing your knowledge or your awareness of celebrations. It is testing if you move to London or you move to New York and you got a job there and you had to write an email to your boss. Can you actually do that? Pick the simplest ideas that actually answer that question. So compare this to this. So is this good?
It's good, but it can be quite, it can seem quite repetitive. This seems a little bit more concise if you're going for a simple answer.
You only have 40 minutes, so you're only really going to be able to discuss 2 ideas. This will take you an hour and a half.
It's like word salad.
Not so much word salad, but you won't have time to go into all of that. If you want to use 4 different ideas and cover everything, you will either have to not go into them in enough depth and enough detail, which is a problem, or you will attempt to go into them in too much detail and you'll go way over and you won't finish your essay.
Understood.
So you need to stop thinking of it as a normal academic writing exercise. If you're in a classroom, you'll be given weeks, months to write an essay. Here, we're doing it under time conditions and you're just testing, can you clearly communicate in English? And this is a very common mistake because a lot of students will see governments, individuals, New Year's, religious festivals, and then they'll create multiple points related to this. So they're like, I need to cover this, and I need to cover this, and I need to cover this, and I need to cover this. You only need to cover what is in the question, not the examples that they said, because the examples are only there to give you an idea of what they actually mean. So this person is trying to do too much, and they're trying to cover absolutely every single thing in the question. You do need to make sure you cover the key points in the question, but not like this person has done, is just throwing the kitchen sink at it. So this one, what is the actual question about? It is about, do governments spend too much on national celebrations? So this person has said, no, they don't, because it attracts tourists. And no, they don't, because people can spend time. So they've covered individuals, and they've covered governments. That's what's in the question. So this is the best answer. But I think what you were worried about is that it's too one-sided. Have a look at the question. Do you agree or disagree? So there's multiple ways that you can answer that question. You can say, I agree. Here's why I agree. Or I disagree. Here's why I disagree. Or you can answer it, well, some people agree, some people disagree. Discuss those and then come to some sort of conclusion at the end. You can do that, but it is really complicated and we want to make your job as easy as possible on test day. So the easiest thing to do is just pick one side. Either I agree, 2 simple ideas for I agree, or I disagree, 2 simple ideas for that one. If we went out of the office today and went to one of the tourist attractions around here and said, on New Year's Eve, the government spent 50 million on fireworks. Is that a good thing? They'd be like, yeah, I think it's a good thing because we will come and see it. Or if you ask the people in the government that spent the 50 million, why did you do that? They'd probably say, well, lots of tourists came and they spent a lot of money, so that 50 million, we made it back tenfold. And then if you said to another 100 people, do you like it when you get time off on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day? Yeah, what do you do? I spend time with my family. So these are the 2 most obvious, simple answers. That's what you want to do. You don't get extra marks for complexity of answers.
Does the examiner care if to look at the morality of your answer?
No.
Not at all?
No. So it could be something like healthcare. And you could say that healthcare should not be free for everybody. People should have to pay for it. Now, some examiners will think that you are a terrible person, but they can't say you're a bad writer. So as long as you say, here's why I think healthcare shouldn't be free, Here's the reasons for it. Here's an example of a country doing it right and having a private healthcare system. If you do that right and your grammar and vocabulary is good, they must give you a band 9. Even if they are like the most left-wing, like believers in socialized medicine, they cannot give you a low score because they disagree with you. That's a very good question.
So we focus heavily on the writing, the communication, and being able to put that thought together.
Because all essay writing is can you take thoughts out of your brain and put it onto paper so that the reader can understand what you're saying. Don't think about you as a writer, think about the reader. What is the best way to communicate your thoughts to the reader? That is massively going to increase your ability to communicate, not only in writing, but in speaking. So writing is divided into 4. We have vocabulary, we have grammar. Did you answer the question? And then we have structure. So that's why we spent so much time thinking about the question and the ideas for the question. So if you can get the ideas right and you put it onto the paper correctly, that's good. But you must put it on the paper in a logical structure that helps the reader understand your argument, understand what you're saying. So that's what we're going to focus on now, which is how to structure. So I'm going to show you 3 different structures. 2 of them are wrong. 1 of them is right. I want you to think about the structures and think about which one would help the reader and why the other 2 would not help the reader understand what you're trying to say. I hope you're enjoying this video on IELTS writing. If you want to improve your IELTS writing even more, I've developed a free course called IELTS Essay Builder. What IELTS Essay Builder does is it gives you a free course that structures everything from your introduction to your main body paragraphs to your conclusions. It shows you step-by-step, sentence-by-sentence, how to write everything that you're learning here. To sign up for that for free, all you have to do is just click the link in the description. Thanks very much, and let's get back to the video. Here's structure number 1. Structure number 2. And structure number 3. Any strike you as really correct or really wrong?
Structure 3 strikes me again as being perhaps too much to accomplish in 45 minutes.
Perfect. 40 minutes.
40 minutes, my bad. Although it seems like the most comprehensive of the 3, I think it might be too much.
Yep.
And trying to be too intelligent rather than focusing on the idea itself.
Perfect. Way too much. You're not going to have time to do all of that. And also you're just trying to cover too many angles. So you're going to like, here's why I might agree. Here's 2 different things, which way too much. But here's also why I disagree. And then you're only going to give your opinion at the very end. We would call that a surprise conclusion, where the person has no idea what you actually think until like the last line. A good introduction answers the questions, and then the main body shows the detail. It proves why they think that, and then the conclusion just reiterates that. It repeats what you think about the question. If you open any textbook, any academic textbook, you should be able to just read the introduction and the conclusion and understand everything in that chapter. That's a little trick that I was taught at university. If you're like trying to study and you don't have time, just read the introduction, read the conclusion. It has the main points. The other 2, what are the differences between those?
Here, I think it's a little bit repetitive, kind of having the opinion and ideas in the beginning and in the end. That might be good because, as you just mentioned, if you read it, off the first line, you kind of know where this conversation's going.
Let's think about the job of each paragraph. What is the job of an introduction?
I think it would kind of give you a sneak peek into what the body of the paragraph, the following paragraph, what it's going to, perhaps the direction in which it's going. I mean, compared to this one where they tell you, you have no idea it's a hook and you don't know where it's going, and it's just, you're taking the reader on a journey, not in a good way in this case.
I suppose it's the difference between like a movie script or a book. Like a movie script, it might show a body floating or something like, who is that? And then you don't find out until the end. This isn't a movie. Yeah. This is an academic essay. This is testing. Can you clearly communicate? So an introduction in an academic sense is, here's what I think about this question. and here are the ideas that I'm going to use to talk about that. Then the main body goes into detail on those ideas, and then the conclusion just repeats those ideas. Like when you're talking to someone and you're explaining a complex thing, they will often say, can you say that again? Can you summarize that? Can you repeat that? That is what a conclusion does. It just repeats the exact same thing to make it clear. Everything that we're trying to do is help the reader understand, because most academic textbooks, essays are about complex topics.
Now that you've put it that way, it sounds enticing.
You're the first person I've met that has described IELTS writing as enticing, but there we go. So this one introduces your ideas. But the problem is that they don't actually use the ideas that we talked about. They have different ideas because they want to talk about why they agree and why they disagree. So they're using different ideas and they're using a different structure. Some questions in task 2 won't say, what's your opinion? They'll say, discuss 2 different opinions. So they're actually using a different structure from a different question.
I see. More concise, more focused. You read the first line and you kind of have an idea of where this is going.
There should be no mystery about it. It's not Netflix. They're being paid to look at these essays. Like, they're not doing it for fun. You don't need to keep them enthralled.
That's a very good point.
We're going to use this structure. Everything in this structure helps the reader. So when they read the introduction, they know what your opinion is, because that's what the question asks. What's your opinion? They know why you believe that to be true, your ideas. Then you're going to go into detail, and then you're going to restate it. You're going to say, I disagree, and here's the reason why. You don't need to worry about repetition, because that's exactly what an essay should look like. You need to avoid repetition of common words, but we'll look at that. And that's more vocabulary. So we'll look at that in a second. Any questions?
Yeah. Yes, I have one question.
Yep.
Let's say there is a question that I get asked where I kind of disagree with some part of it and I agree with another part of it. From just purely a writing examination point of view, is it better for me to focus on an agree or disagree depending on which direction I lean towards? Or should I put a little bit in one basket, why I agree, and put a little bit more in another?
This is going to sound harsh, but your personal feelings are irrelevant.
Okay.
It's not a test of how you feel. It is, can you communicate clearly in English? So what you should do is think, which side is easier to write about, agree or disagree?
I like that. Interesting.
So we're nearly ready to start writing. So we've looked at how to answer the question, and we've looked at the paragraph structure. So we've got your introduction, we've got our main body paragraph, so we've got our conclusion. Let's focus in on the introduction, and we need to think about the sentence structure for the introduction. So which sentences are we actually going to include? I'm going to show you 3 different sentence structures, what you would actually include in your introduction. Same thing, 2 of them are wrong, 1 of them is right. Have a look, think about it. To thank you for making it this far in the video, I want to give you 10% off our VIP course. The IELTS VIP course is the most successful IELTS course in the world. That is a fact because we have more Band 7, 8 and 9 success stories than any other IELTS course in the entire world. We do that by simplifying the whole IELTS process, supporting you with some of the best IELTS teachers in the world, and being with you every step of the way until you get the score that you need. All you have to do is just look down in the description, just click that, and you can sign up. If you have any questions about the VIP course, always feel free to get in touch with us. We answer 100% of the questions that we get. Hope that you become a VIP. If not, enjoy the rest of this free video. Here's introduction 1. Paraphrase means take the question and rewrite it so that it means the same thing but with different words. Like, I am a man, I am a male. Paraphrase question, state your opinion, and then outline just in a short way, outline your main ideas. Introduction 2, write a hook the reader in, and then write a thesis statement. A thesis statement is just an academic way of stating your opinion. Introduction 3, paraphrase question, and then discuss 2 opposing ideas, which is completely wrong right away.
The second one.
Why?
Don't need a hook.
Good.
And the thesis is too much for an introduction.
This is often the case in India. Not picking on anyone from India, but from India they will say, nowadays in modern life, such and such a topic is a very hot topic. This essay will endeavor to discuss both views while giving a reasoned conclusion. I don't know why, but that must be taught in schools in India or IELTS places in India. And basically, it is word salad. It is meaningless because the person has just memorized a bunch of words and put them on the page, but hasn't actually done anything. They haven't answered the question. Writing is not about memorization. So anything you memorize can be just discounted by the examiner. And the examiner reads stuff like that 20 times a day. They know exactly what you're doing. So you never put a memorized thesis statement in. And most hooks are memorized as well to a certain extent. And you don't need to hook the reader. They're being paid. So.
That's a great point. They're being paid. You don't need to buy their interest.
What about this one?
I would say with discussing two opposing ideas, I probably wouldn't go for this because again, it shouldn't be a discussion. I think it should be brief. And with two ideas, again,
good,
unnecessary.
Perfect. Yeah, a discussion will be more detail orientated. It requires a lot of extrapolation. You're not going to do that in the introduction. The introduction should just be, hey, how... It's like meeting someone and immediately having an in-depth conversation about your childhood trauma.
Right.
Yeah.
Buy them a drink first.
Yeah, exactly. Just it's too much. An introduction should be, hey, how are you? Here's what I'm going to talk about today. And then also, it's not answering the question. This is a very common mistake, is students will look at the question, they'll think of ideas, and then they'll create an introduction that has nothing to do with the ideas that they actually thought about. So that is why the way that we teach is it makes it pretty much impossible to do the wrong thing if you follow the system. So we analyze the question, we think of ideas, we think about structure, and then we populate structure with ideas. So everything is linked together. So the ideas answer the question. The structure answers the question. The ideas go into the structure. This system makes it foolproof. Anyone can follow this system and do exactly what they should be doing. So we're forcing you to give the examiners what they're looking for. Paraphrase the question. You have to do this for every task 2 question. The first sentence should always be a paraphrase. What that does is it tells the examiner this person has understood the question because you cannot paraphrase something if you don't understand it. Then you make your opinion clear. Here's the question is, do you agree or disagree? Tell them in the introduction whether you agree or disagree. And then the 2 main ideas, I disagree for idea number 1 and idea number 2. So someone should be able to look at your introduction and understand exactly what you think about the question.
Without even having to look at the body or the conclusion.
Without even having to ask you any questions. So what we're going to do now is you are going to take this question, ignore to what extent do you agree, just this sentence, and you're going to write it in different words, but it should mean the same thing. Importantly, you don't have to change every word. Paraphrasing doesn't mean taking each single word and changing it. Like in, how do I change in? Many, how do I change many? That's not how paraphrasing works. The best way to describe it would be read it and then think about it. How would you say this to someone? Okay, so you've changed individuals to the people. Good. So we're talking collectively about individuals in a society, so the people, good. And governments, so you decided to repeat the word governments because you couldn't think of another way. Good. In general, you should try to change as many words as you can, but a big mistake that a lot of students make is they will either spend way too long thinking of an alternative, and that's a bad strategy for time management, because this is the first sentence of your essay. You don't want to spend 15 minutes on one sentence, which a lot of students do, because they're thinking, governments, how do I change that? How do I change that? There's no point changing one word and messing up the entirety of the rest of your essay because you don't have time to write it. By choosing to repeat it, that's good. The other thing that a lot of students do is they'll change it to something that is wrong. So they'll change it to something they think could be. So for example, they might change it to the people and departments. Like that doesn't actually mean the same as governments. And if they get that wrong, they lose marks for vocabulary. So, and it can also change the entire meaning of the essay if they change it to something that means something completely different. of several nations.
So I switched that around. You started with in many countries.
Good. Nations to countries. Several, many, very good. Spend large portions of their incomes. Very good. On celebrating. So you change celebrations to celebrating. Very good. A lot of people think that they need to change the word completely.
Mm-hmm.
You've just taken that and changed a different form of the word.
Yeah.
Excellent. Religious and cultural festivals.
Mm-hmm. So I left national
Yep.
out of it.
Yeah, good. Very, very, very good. The only thing I would point out, the question is about spending too much, whereas you've just said that they're spending large portions of their income. That's not really saying that it's too much, because you could spend a large portion of your income on anything, but it might not be too much. Like people spend a large proportion of their income on their mortgage, but you might not say that is too much. But I'm splitting hairs here. I'm being overly critical.
Yeah, defining.
I think you would be okay, but I'm pointing it out because on test day, make sure that the meaning is the same. I think this is okay, but I would maybe change it slightly. So maybe add that in, which some think is wasteful. So really what this is saying is it's too much, it's a waste, it's an extravagance. So I've just put that in so that the meaning means the same thing. Does that make sense? Question is saying, we understand that a lot of places spend money on this, but is it too much? Is it a waste? Is it an extravagance? You could do it up here. The people and governments of several nations
Spend disproportionately on their...
very good. Spend disproportionately on celebrating religious and the so full stop, and then we'll delete that.
I like that a lot.
What I would add in here is just some belief that the people and governments of several nations spend disproportionately on celebrating religious, because you're going to tee yourself up there for saying, I disagree. Okay, so according to our structure, the next thing we need to do is put your opinion in. What do you think? You agree or disagree?
I disagree.
Okay, so put that in. Okay. And then why you disagree? So if you just put, I disagree because those two reasons.
Okay.
Just state them very simply. I disagree because for governments, such an expense is an investment which helps attract
Tourism.
tourism, and for individual citizens, it is quality time spent with their loved ones, both of which...
Creates a stronger sense of community.
Okay, good. So my main criticism would be you're adding in an extra idea here.
Okay.
If you add that in and you don't discuss it here in the main body, then it's like, why did she just throw that in there and then didn't actually go into it? Creating a sense of community is kind of a third idea. You're making that classic mistake of an intelligent person again. You're trying to make
Doing
it
too
more
much.
complex than it actually is. Just keep it simple. This is absolutely fine. We would be able to cut this out and you would be able to take this home, hand it to one of your family members, and they would be able to understand exactly what you think about it.
I see. Nothing left to the imagination.
Exactly. Next, what we need to do is we need to take these ideas and we need to go into detail in the main body. So we will have first main body paragraph and it will have something called topic sentence. This is your idea. Then we will have explanation. This is your reasons, the reasons why you think this idea is true. And then here we will have your example. This is your evidence. You're proving that this is true. And this is going to be your first main body paragraph. So idea number one, put it in here. So you're taking the ideas from your introduction, you're putting them into this. All you have to do is just look at the introduction and go, okay, I'm going to talk about idea number one, and then I'm going to talk about idea number two. This structure forces you to fully explain, fully develop, give evidence, give examples, which is exactly what the examiners are looking for. So let's talk about each of these now. What is a topic sentence? It is just you restating your main idea. Let me show you 3 examples, and you tell me which ones you think. What do you think of topic sentence number 1?
Too much, too smart, too many details.
Yeah. A lot of students will try and show off. The job of a topic sentence is to just make it clear what the paragraph is about. That doesn't really do that. That is someone trying to, hey, look how great my English is. That's not the job you're trying to get it to do. What do you think of topic sentence number 2?
I think it's contradictory. And it plays both sides, which I've been advised by you not to do.
Yeah. So your topic sentence needs to match what is in your introduction. This is part of the marking criteria called coherence and cohesion. Coherence means that is it clear? Do you know anybody, maybe one of your friends, that starts talking about one thing and then immediately changes the subject mid-sentence and it's confusing, yeah? So that is what an essay looks like if you put that in there. So that is why we talk about structure so much, because it makes it impossible to be that confusing friend. And then the other thing is cohesion. Cohesion is, does this paragraph match this paragraph, match this paragraph? It should be cohesive, which means that it all links together. But what that topic sentence does, is that good or bad or what?
I would perhaps reiterate the government part of it so that I can make sure that that's what I'm speaking about.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think it's pretty...
That's a really good point. You've already set the context that you're talking about governments, so it's okay if you don't mention that specifically here.
But then do I not need to distinguish between, like in this section, I'm talking about the government and not the people?
You've set the context there, and I think it's obvious because you're talking about increasing tourism revenue that you're talking about the government. So let's put that in.
Okay.
So now we need to write our explanation. Another way to think about this are the reasons you think this is true. A good way to think about this is, if you were to explain this to a 10-year-old, what would you say? Imagine him being in this city and he was like, wow, the government spends so much on all the fireworks on New Year's Eve. Why do they do that? That's dumb. How would you explain that to him?
A cultural experience through celebrations directly impacts the seasonality of tourism in a country. These tourists end up spending on hotels, restaurants, transportation, and other related regional experiences. This expenditure can make up for large portions of a country's GDP, often easily recovering their initial investment.
That's perfect, because I don't think anyone would have follow-up questions. They would understand, but they might need a little example. Can you think of a real scenario from, not from your own life maybe, but just your own knowledge of a real thing where a government has spent money on an event and people come and spend lots of money?
The firework New Year's Eve in Dubai.
Okay, so for example, then write that. So it's just, again, think of the reader. Imagine someone who's never been to Dubai. They don't know anything about Dubai. They've never seen a firework before. How would you explain that to them? Obviously, the examiner knows what a firework is, but thinking in those terms forces you to write good examples because you're not assuming they know anything. Assume that you're writing to someone with zero knowledge. Oh, I like it. A classic example. Very good. A classic example would be the government of Dubai spending millions of dirhams on a firework display on New Year's Eve. These celebrations bring in millions of people from all over the world who end up spending a lot of money on hotels, food, alcohol, shopping, and other experiences in Dubai. The event also garners immeasurable media attention from around the world, which ensures overall goodwill for future tourism. Good, because you link this to the main point of tourism. A little bit long. What you've done is perfect. I can't criticize it at all, but you need to balance length with time. Remember, you're going to be spending 5 to 10 minutes planning. You're about 15 minutes in and you get to here. If you're over 15 minutes, just stop writing, continue on. You need to get to the end. Because you could write the perfect band 9 introduction, the perfect main body paragraph. And if you don't get to your conclusion and finish your conclusion, you'll end up getting like 7, 6.5, something like that. Your job is to write an essay, not 3/4 of an essay. So we have done this, which is topic, sentence, explanation, example for idea number 1. The second idea is what?
Citizens. For people.
So what we need to do is use the exact same structure. So topic, sentence, explanation, example. Write that, and we're nearly done. For citizens, national celebrations are the perfect opportunity to reconnect with friends and family and take time off work. Keep it simple. Sure. So you keep adding in more and more and more stuff.
Or you're going to be striking off more stuff as you go further down. Okay, cool.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting beside you and I'm constantly telling you, and you're still doing it without me telling you anything on test day. You're going to do it way more. Like even subconsciously, you know I'm checking this and I'm telling you all the time. In my experience, for someone like you, as soon as you get on your own, you're going to go back to your own. So I'm really hammering at it, even though technically there's nothing wrong with this, but I'm just being super critical.
In today's capitalistic world, where there is often a large emphasis on productivity, national festivals help people readjust their focus and connect with humans around them in an organic way. Cultural and religious festivals can help a family feel recharged, reinstating a sense of purpose, which may be lost through monotonous city life. Happiness is an intangible.
So capitalism, productivity, sense of purpose, city life, very impressive. But we're talking about one simple thing, which is spending time with family.
Yeah, but then I'm trying to say the spending time with family as being something that helps you heal from an unavoidable, like the downfall of a city life, which is that yes, you care about making money and yes, you care about having a career and those things are important, but a good way to offset the negative aspects of that life is by spending more time with people and talking to people and getting off.
So see the way I have to ask you about it and you explain it to me? Will the examiner be able to do that? Will they be able to sit down with you and talk you through it? So the difference between speaking and writing, speaking, I can ask follow-up questions. What do you mean by that? What's that got to do with capitalism? What has that got to do with it? And then you can explain that again. Writing, I can't do that. So that is why we keep preaching, and I sound like a broken record. Like just keep it simple, explain things in simple terms so that the examiner can just read it and understand exactly what you mean. They don't have to think about all these follow-up questions.
Would you say that we would strike this last sentence out completely? Or
I would strike the entire paragraph out.
What? The explanation? Oh, whoa, okay.
There's too much going on.
Okay. Touch too many things and went too wide?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is your main issue. So this is why I'm being really, really critical of
No,
it.
you're right, yeah.
So again, if we go back to the question, individuals spend too much money on national celebrations. Do you agree or disagree? So you're saying you disagree that individuals spend too much money because of the capitalist society that we live in, which puts a lot of pressure on people because the need for more and more productivity. There's a lot going on there. I would just keep it very, very simple and just say something like they are spending money, but that means that they can spend more time with their loved ones. And that is good because, and explain in a very simple way why spending time with your loved ones. So something like on a normal day, a normal week, you don't get to see your family because they are so busy. You're getting there. Don't worry.
I need to read it in like 10 notches.
Yeah. So let me see. So in Dubai, the Ministry of Happiness was created to help make people's overall quality of life better. This decision is to reduce the work week
to reduce
from 5 days to 4.5 days was aimed to give employees more time to spend with their loved ones. This change has directly contributed to the happiness of people and even improving their productivity at work. So again, this is kind of a new idea, improving productivity at work, and whether a 4-day week not only is good because people aren't working, but it actually leads to more productivity, which improves. So it's like a completely new idea again. A good thing to understand is that one paragraph, one idea. Introduction, you can mention both ideas, but in the main body, one paragraph, one idea.
You're
Keep
right.
it simple.
I completely missed the mark on this one.
No, it's good. This is what we're trying to establish.
I didn't even
Because if
think
we
about
don't
it till you pointed
uncover
it out.
the issues, you'll never improve. You need to have these tough conversations for it to be shown that you are making these mistakes so that you can avoid them. Establish weakness, turn weakness into strength. I want you to write this
I'm
again,
gonna
just
fix it.
focusing on family.
I like it.
Okay?
I like it.
So let's look at your new main body paragraph. So for citizens, national celebrations are the perfect opportunity to reconnect with friends and family. Time spent with loved ones is priceless. National celebrations provide an opportunity for people to reconnect with people they love, building community and creating memories. So you've explained why that is valuable. People's expense on such events usually indicates their willingness to buy time spent with family, and hence it is a completely reasonable expense. Good. I really like the way you've linked it back to the question. That's excellent. In India, so good, you're using your own experience. People save money their whole life for their wedding celebrations of their children. So what's the question about national celebrations? Did it mention weddings, didn't it?
Doesn't wedding fall under religious?
So let me just double check the question. So in many countries, governments and individuals spend too much money on national celebrations.
Such as New Year's and religious.
But is a wedding a national celebration? So when they say national celebration or national religious celebration in Ireland would be St. Patrick's Day, or Christmas is a national religious day. You're talking about an individual wedding. The whole country wouldn't be celebrating that unless it's like one of your famous big celebrity weddings. It would be a religious festival, but it's not a national celebration. A national celebration is when everybody gets the day off or everybody celebrates in some way. All we need to do is we need to think. We have individuals, we have the day off, everyone gets the day off, and there's some kind of money spent. That could be a small amount of money, like buying a new dress or having to buy presents at Christmas or buying, having to go out on New Year's Eve and buy drinks, or, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be a huge amount of money. But what do you know where individuals, most people get the day off in India and there's some money spent?
Does it have to be India, or can I switch
You
teams?
can anything you like.
St. Patrick's Day in
Okay,
America.
good.
I know nothing about St. Patrick's Day.
So I do.
Okay.
In Ireland, people save money the whole month of March for St. Patrick's Day celebrations. This involves normally spending a huge amount of money on alcohol, but many believe it is worth the cost considering they get to spend the whole day with friends and family. So, okay. So the last thing we need to do is we need to write our conclusion. Let me show you a little trick to write one quickly. So what you do is you write in conclusion, comma, and then you look at your introduction. I disagree because of idea 1 and idea 2, and you basically just paraphrase that. So
Okay.
you're restating your opinion. I disagree, and then the 2 reasons.
So do you have to paraphrase the first line as well? I disagree with the people that believe that
You
government...
can keep I disagree,
Okay.
and then just paraphrase the 2 ideas. In conclusion, I disagree that too much money is spent on national celebrations because of idea 1, idea 2.
Reconnect with their friends and family.
Excellent. So, congratulations, you've finished your essay. Before we get on to what you've learned so far, the last thing that you should do when you finish your essay is, well, there's 2 things you want to do. You want to go first through it and spot any grammatical errors, spelling mistakes, things that are just easy to fix, like little punctuation errors, spelling errors, and is to go line by line, because one small error can mean the difference between 6.5 and 7 or 7 and 7.5. Basically, if you make too many errors, that lowers your scores. You can make errors and get a high score. We want to reduce them as much as possible. Second thing that you need to do is go through it and look for any vocabulary that maybe you repeated too many times, or are there any words that you could upgrade? We are not going to do that. The people at home are going to do that. We're going to put your essay as it is in the description, and they are going to spot any grammatical errors, spelling errors, or how could you improve the vocabulary. Don't cheat. Nobody likes a cheater. Don't put this through ChatGPT. Don't look up dictionaries. Don't be typing in what are synonyms of this or that. Do it for real as you would in the real test, because that is going to help you improve, and that's why we're here. But what did you learn? How do you think that you can improve?
I don't think there was anything that I did right. I think I needed to improve on everything.
No, there's a lot of good things. But
maybe I'm being critical, but I feel...
But let's break it down. Question analysis, and we have idea generation. What did you learn about that step there?
I learned that I perhaps try to touch on too many topics, and it helps from a perspective of creating answers as well as time management. To make sure that I pick two things and I focus on them. And that can be hard, like I said, because I want to talk about so many things. So I feel like those first 5-10 minutes are essential to kind of know what I'm going to talk about and lock myself in so that I don't go outside those boundaries.
You just have laser focus on answering the question and simple ideas. And limit your ideas. So it's not a brainstorming session. It's writing an essay. Then we move on to structure. What did you learn about structure?
Similar concept of having an idea of where you're going to go with your answers. Knowing that you want to convey the message to the examiner in terms of what you're trying to say, what your opinion is. And not necessarily taking the storytelling approach, which I quite often find myself gravitating towards.
Yeah, no storytelling. And just keep to the structure.
Yeah.
And then the intro, what did we do in the intro?
Short, concise.
What job does it do?
It tells them what your opinion is, what side you fall on. And it gives you more than a sneak peek into what the next information is going to expand on.
Yeah.
So you have an idea of what to expect.
And then what do we do with those ideas in the main body?
We expand on them in still a concise way. We're basically speaking to a 10-year-old and we're explaining to them.
We take the ideas from introduction, we put them in our main body, and we explain them and give examples as if we're talking to a 10-year-old. And then we just summarize everything in our conclusion. And then we check our grammar and our vocabulary. The main thing for you is just simplifying everything. I know I sound like a broken record, but it's just you overcomplicate everything. You do way too much. You Forrest Gump everything.
That's a great analogy.
So I think we could summarize it up as just don't force. Even though you've never seen the movie, I think you understand. You can watch it tonight.
Yeah, I will. And I'll think of how I did on this test while I watch it.
Good. Well done.
Thank you.